Hello, I'm Antonio Garza de Yta. I'm Vice President of the International Center for Strategic Studies in Aquaculture, and I will be your host in this program, Café and Aquaculture. As some of you might know, Café and Aquacultura was a program that was done in Spanish before in partnership with International Aquafeed. But as CIDEA is expanding globally, we are looking forward to serve as many speakers as possible, the bigger audience as possible, and English is going to be the language that we're going to do our communications from now on. So I would like to thank also our new media partners for this program, which I will thank them in alphabetical order: Aquaculture Africa Magazine, Aquaculture Asia Pacific, Aquaculture Magazine, Industria Acuícola, International Aquafeed, and Panorama Acuícola, which will position this program globally. And we hope really that we can actually share with you the experience of the important guests that we will have during this program. Today, we will start with somebody that has been a major actor of aquaculture for the last 30 years. Our first guest, and I think we're going to be starting with the right foot, is my very good friend, John Cooksey. John is one of the, if you have been in aquaculture, one of the nicest persons that you will ever know, and has always been behind the scenes in the World Aquaculture Society, as he has been the executive director for the last 29 years. John, welcome to this first program of Café and Aquaculture. I hope you're enjoying your coffee.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's good morning here. So.
Good morning, that's right. We are in the other side of the world. Now we have a 10-hour or 11-hour difference, but I think I'm still having my coffee, and it's going to keep me awake all night. Well, John, in this program, usually our guests introduce themselves, and I'm going to have this. I'm going to keep this tradition. So I will ask you to please tell us how was your journey? How is that you started being part of WAS? How did you got in aquaculture?
Well, I originally started with WAS around 1993, 94, and I was hired initially to be the conference director for the triennial meeting. And then working with George Chamberlain, he ended up getting me hired as WAS as the conference director for all of WAS's meetings, which back at that time was very few. There was maybe one a year. There weren't too many chapters around. And so we started developing all of that over the last 30 years. We added the Asian Pacific chapter. We built up the Latin American chapter. The US chapter was already in existence. And then we have since added the Korean chapter and the African chapter. We also during that time developed ties with the European Aquaculture Society, so we have a very close working relationship with them. And we went from one meeting a year to where we're now doing 6 meetings a year for the World Aquaculture Society.
So it's
currently I'm now the executive director also of World Aquaculture Society.
Yeah, well, but you also organize the European Aquaculture Society meetings, correct?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah, well,
myself and my team organized the World Aquaculture European meetings too.
I need to remember when I got the first time to the WAS. It was 2001, and you were there, and you really have been a mentor for many students, and I would like to congratulate you for that. But in all this journey that you have been since 1993, 1994, you have seen major changes in aquaculture. Can you name a few? How have you seen the industry transform or major changes during these years?
Well, I think over that time, the biggest changes have been one in the global reach of aquaculture. More and more countries are developing aquaculture programs as the years have gone along. Until now, it's truly a global industry. It was global back then, but it has increased its intensity through the more countries and more aquaculture in the countries. Also, more species have started being raised and developed through aquaculture in response to the lack of seafood available through the normal fishing harvesting methods. And so the number of species has increased drastically. And also the technology has changed drastically in the last 30 years. Everything from the hatchery grow out period to the harvesting, the technology has increased drastically. And I think the other thing that I've seen, which was very poor when I first started, was the marketing for aquaculture, both from the marketing of the projects and also the marketing and the public relations of the concept of aquaculture has increased significantly in the last 30 years.
That's very important. I think that we still have to learn how to tell our story. We have failed a little bit, but we have improved. But
we've improved, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
People still think, have a misconception of aquaculture and how it works.
Yes, and I think this is a major factor, and this is one of the ways that WAS can serve. But I mean, I'm going to ask you, and you might let people know, is how do you consider that WAS, the World Aquaculture Society, serves the aquaculture sector today?
Well, the main thing, the World Aquaculture Society is based as an education arm of the aquaculture industry, and our mission, is, if you say, would be to provide education to the aquaculture industry, everything from technical to practical means. And an important part of that education is not just information or details or technology developments, but it's also, I think, to increase the communication between people involved in aquaculture. Not only communication between countries and what they're doing in each country, because every country has a unique story to tell on how they do their aquaculture. Even if it's the same species in different countries, each one is different or slightly different than the way the other one handles it, all aspects of it. But I think also one of the bigger things that WAS facilitates is the communication between different species and different disciplines in the scientific world involving aquaculture. I know 30 years ago, it seemed that there was, the researchers for nutrition didn't really deal much with the researchers for the grow out or that sort of thing. And so what we've tried to do from WAS is to bring people together, and so that they can communicate regardless of their discipline, regardless of the species or the type of work they're doing in aquaculture. And one of those main functions has been through our meetings. We have books and we have seminars and that sort of thing, but the main thing is through the conferences and the meetings that we organize. And the whole goal there is to bring as many people involved in aquaculture from as many disciplines, as many species groups, as many countries as possible. And I'm happy to say that most of our meetings have anywhere from 65 to 95 countries involved. And so you'll see people in we'll have the sessions, and they'll be talking about one discipline or the other. But because the people are at that meeting, it's easy to go drop in on a session that has nothing to do with your discipline and just see what's happening there. And also then you'll see in the hallways or in the receptions that you'll see the people talking to each other. Somebody who's involved in this discipline will be talking to somebody in a totally different discipline. And I really think that kind of cross-pollination, if you will, really aids any industry, and particularly aquaculture, because it stimulates new ideas. It causes more collaboration and cooperation in the development of the technology and the scientific progress in aquaculture. And I think that's one of the main functions of WAS, is to bring those groups together and create a melting pot to advance the science and the industry.
I could not have said it better, to tell you the truth. I have been a product of the World Aquaculture Society, and I have lived that in amazing networking that provides, and many of the ideas that actually later get adopted in the global aquaculture are born in those halls and in those meetings. And what can I say? I am a fan of the World Aquaculture Society, and I think that this serves in many ways aquaculture worldwide, and it's actually getting people together. I think that is what will define WAS, getting people together, and then hopefully it continues for many, many years. But
Just to add one point that,
Yeah.
excuse me, just to add one point you touched on a few minutes ago, is the students coming to the meetings. And
Absolutely.
I think it's had a tremendous impact on students who come to the meetings, and all of a sudden, without traveling to 70 or 80 countries, they can meet people involved in aquaculture from all those different countries, and not just on a technical or scientific basis, but on a personal, cultural level too. And I think that it's been rewarding for me to see many students like yourself who started out helping with registration and now are heading major organizations involved in aquaculture around the world. And I can't tell you that that number is in the hundreds that have used that springboard of being a student at the aquaculture meetings to developing their career in aquaculture.
Absolutely. I remember the expression of the face of my students when I took them to the first aquaculture meeting, and how happy they were, and you can see their eyes and their brain opening, no, globally, and it was, that feeling is amazing when you're a mentor too. So I think that is very, very one of the main, if not the most important way the World Aquaculture Society serves the sector. But
And I think one development you mentioned, the development is that back in the early days when students met, it was hard for them to keep in touch, maybe email
right.
or see at another meeting. But as social media has developed and the students are quite adept at the social media, I think it's made it easier for them to stay in touch with all the contacts they make at a meeting from all the different countries, to be able to keep in contact about whatever social or scientific subjects or whatever. And I think that's been a major change in helping students develop in the industry.
No, well, definitely. I mean, this is this is putting us together. We're on the other side of the world, and hopefully this program will be seen from people from all over the world. So social media and the new technologies definitely have a huge impact on the way we communicate and between each other. So lately, I mean, we know the COVID was one of the major impacts that has impacted the industry, and I'm sure was was hurt by it. But what do you consider the major lessons that we should learn from COVID?
Well, I can't say that you can ever be prepared for another thing like COVID again, but I think the lessons that we've tried to learn and develop into WAS was, number one is you have to be flexible and you have to be able to adapt to a situation that comes up. For instance, when all the meetings had to be canceled because of COVID in 2020, 2021 particularly, first of all, we had to adapt by rescheduling meetings down the road when they might happen. And several meetings like the Singapore meeting were rescheduled 4 or 5 times before we finally were able to have them. But the other thing we tried to do is, it was important to keep your product or your association or your group, whatever, in the eye of your customer. And so we developed some online meetings for our chapters, for our society as a whole, to try to keep the name of WAS and the chapters out in front of the people, and also to try to provide some information about what was going on in the aquaculture industry in relation to COVID and the effect it was having, and having some speakers address the various aspects that were affected by COVID, which was everything from the scientific technical aspect to the economic marketing. And so I think one is to never feel like you're secure, and number two, to be prepared to be flexible and to react to the situation and try to find ways to still convey your message, conduct your business with whatever restrictions or limitations are placed by the event.
I think I say it in the name of all the past presidents of the World Aquaculture Society. I think that we are very glad that somebody like you was in charge of the boat when something like that happened, because I mean, you are very committed to the society. It's part of your life. And I know that you will leave everything in the line to save the society. And I think WAS will become stronger after this. And I want to thank you and congratulate you. And I think that all the membership should know that you are one of the people that was behind WAS surviving these terrible times. And it was because of you that still have a society, and it will have it for many years. Thank you, John, for that. I'm deviating a little bit, but I really wanted to express my feeling of, and many others, about the great job that you have performed in that last 30 years, but especially in the last 3 years where it has been very, very hard. So thank you, John, again. So any special...
Just to be fair, I want to mention that the board members over the last 2 or 3 years, yourself included, Jimmy Avery and
Yes.
Jennifer Comcroft, Blair, and the various board members really helped a lot by their commitment to WAS too, and doing whatever it took to keep the message out there, to keep WAS moving forward, and to adapt and adjust to the situation.
Yeah, it was for us that we were president during COVID was not precisely the time that we were expecting. But
everybody had to change their idea, right?
It was not what you were expecting of being president of WAS. But to tell you the truth, I think it was important times to be there, and I'm happy of of how we are going forward. So, any special plans for WAS in the upcoming years? Any news that you would like to share?
Well, I think that a couple things. We have the meetings going back on track. Anybody who's listening, don't forget to attend the LACWA 2023 in Panama, or the next World Aquaculture 2023 in Darwin, Northern Territories, Australia, and other meetings down the road. You can see a full list of them on the website. But we're continuing now that COVID is over to try to increase our reach into countries where we haven't held a meeting before. One of our philosophies with the meetings is that we need to go to any country that's trying to develop aquaculture, to give them the help of the international exposure that happens when a WAS meeting is held in that country. And so we'll be going to some new countries in Africa to help support the African chapter. We'll be going to some new countries elsewhere around the world. So don't forget to sign up and submit your abstract, go to the meeting, sign up for your booth. Couple other new things that are happening is the March issue of the World Aquaculture magazine is just coming out in this next week or two. And that will be the last issue of World Aquaculture World Aquaculture magazine that'll be printed. From now on, the magazine will only be electronic and it'll be available on the website. It already is available on the website now that members can access, even if they get a printed copy, but we're eliminating the printed copy because more and more people and most members only are interested in the electronic now. So we're going that route. When the first issue will be the June issue, will be fully electronic. There'll be some other changes coming down the road with that, but we will announce those later. I can announce that John Hargraves, who has done a fantastic job with the magazine over the last quite a few years, has retired from the magazine. He wanted me to make sure not say he's retired from his life, but he's retired from the magazine. And Greg Lutz from Baton Rouge will be taking over the editorship. He'll be working with John on the June issue, and then in September we'll take over the full editorship of the magazine. We continue to improve the journal, and its impact factor and all of the metrics have gone up significantly over the last few years and continue to rise. And we also have a new dues structure, which you can see on the website, that will go in effect April 1st. We're trying to be more internationally inclusive, and also to be more responsive to what our members need in the way of dues structure. I think that's about it for any new things that I know going on. But also, if you haven't renewed your membership, please do. Any renewals before April 1st can get the old rate. So you can sign up for as many years now as you want and get that old rate. Also, if you aren't a member of WAS, please sign up and join, because the more members that we have, the more we can help the aquaculture industry around the world.
I agree with you on that. Actually, I'm glad that people get involved. This is one of the best ways that you can actually improve your network if you're starting in aquaculture. And also, this is other for the people that experience, I would say experience, not old. We can help aquaculture, the activity that we love. So definitely join WAS and keep promoting this beautiful activity. John, anything that you would like to add?
I think that covers about everything that I could think of. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. And I think you are the person that has been seeing what has happened, and maybe you are the people that has the largest network in the world in aquaculture. I will say that this is very important, and you're a proof that being in the World Aquaculture Society is a great tool. And hopefully, I wanted you to, my very good friend, to be here in the first program of Cafe and Aquaculture, and I'm sure that we will see each other soon. And I would like to invite other members of the team later to join this program, because the World Aquaculture Society is a society that serves the industry and serves all the professionals around the world. And thank you, John. Thank you to everybody that is watching us, wherever you are in the world. And we'll see you in Australia.
All right. Bye now.